Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very accomplished professional from North Carolina, USA, Heidi Araya. Heidi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here.
Thank you. Heidi is the Chief Executive Officer of BrightLogic, which is an AI agency specializing in AI automation and process improvement for small, medium-sized businesses. So, Heidi, before I ask you about BrightLogic, tell me a little bit about yourself and your own journey in brief.
This is a very interesting story because I graduated with a degree in Russian and linguistics, and the Soviet Union fell even before I had the diploma in my hand. So I had to reinvent myself quickly. I became a technical writer and I had that career, but also I saw that career on the decline. So I reinvented myself and I became an agilist and eventually leading large agile transformations inside large enterprises. And again, I saw this need declining and I knew I had to reinvent myself again. So it was like AI came on the horizon and I was grateful because there wasn't something else I was passionate about at the time that I could reinvent myself into. So I really saw this as a great moment in my life where I said, I'm going to just embrace this again and make this the newest version of myself. So I took my process improvement background that I'd had and I'd worked with companies over the years and pivoted to working with small to medium-sized organizations to help them with their process improvement efforts, leveraging AI.
Amazing. Thank you. So let's talk about BrightLogic. Tell me about BrightLogic. Why did you start it and what was your vision?
Yeah, originally I started the company years ago and I was really focused on those enterprise transformations. So I did some consulting, but I always had a full-time job at the same time. And like I said, I recognized the career path were dwindling and fewer people wanted this. It was the laggards that were still looking for this skill set. So I had to pivot my role. And I also decided at that moment that I no longer wanted to work with enterprises. I figured this is going to be the same problem all over again that I had faced. They're going to be pushing the solution onto people who aren't ready. The data wouldn't be there in the case of AI. And then it would be a huge rush. People would be stressed out. And then at the end, it wouldn't be successful. And so I thought, where can I make the biggest difference? And so I started focusing on small to medium-sized organizations because I figured they would be the least likely for anyone else to be serving them and with the most need, because unlike large organizations, they can't just hire people to do things. They really have to make the most of what they had. So then I decided to bring my process improvement and AI skills to small to medium-sized businesses.
Very interesting. And tell me a little bit more about some of the core services of BrightLogic and how do they cater specifically to small and medium-sized businesses?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So originally I started with operational improvements. That's been my background. And I quickly realized that when I went out to spoke to small business owners at the events and things I was doing, they were most interested in not operational improvements, but sales improvements in their sales process, improvements in their marketing process. That was the one where they felt they mostly struggled. So I pivoted to helping more in the top of the funnel activities to help them generate more business. Again, this is one, it was the market demand inspired me to change my focus from operational improvements, although I can do those, to more of a sales and marketing focus where small and medium-sized businesses need the most support. As you know, and you can imagine, a big company might have thousands of clients, but a small business might have a few. And so if you aren't constantly thinking about your pipeline of work, you're going to be struggling. And so I really started to focus there and realize this was the biggest impact I could make in my local community and just helping those businesses that no one else probably was going to serve.
Well said. And what are some of the key challenges these small and medium-sized businesses face?
They, first of all, have to operate with limited revenue.
Correct.
They cannot hire. And so they face challenges with multitasking. The same person has to do the marketing copy as to go and do sales, close deals, and schedule appointments, and actually do, in my case too, I have to do the sales and also implement the automations in some case. I have a team that helps me, but I'm still involved in the day-to-day work. So the challenges they face are a lot of manual work, a lot of task switching, struggling to have a steady pipeline of customers because
Mm.
they're struggling in different parts of their business. So those are some of the common struggles that I was seeing.
Wow. Wow. And when you talk to so many of these small and medium businesses, a lot of them probably don't even know enough about AI. What are some common misconceptions about AI automation that you frequently encounter?
I think it starts with even the word AI.
Mm.
They aren't aware what AI can do. There are a lot of people who have this idea that it's going to be extremely costly, that it's only for large enterprises with big budgets. They won't be able to afford it and they won't be able to understand it. It might be too technical. And so
Mm.
that's why I'm here to help them implement solutions in a way that fits their budgets and their
Mm.
resources so it can be available to all, but also share with them it's accessible now to people who are non-technical.
Mm.
I think the other concern is that a big concern is that it's not personal. It's generic.
Mm.
And this is the furthest from the truth. Let me give you an actual example. So I went to a
Yeah.
local barbecue joint and turns out they had a lot of Google reviews. And I said, well,
Mm.
actually, I can do this for you. I can take all the Google reviews, create a song, and then you can have like a song for your business.
Mm.
That took me about 10 minutes to produce. It's a
Wow.
beautiful country song. It's a barbecue joint, and it actually pulls from the review. So I didn't have to look up what their menu was. It was just coming literally from the reviews. They have two kinds of sauce. Someone drove their Harley from Virginia to North Carolina and it was great, and they loved it. So I think people are missing the point here when it says AI is mine is a relationship business, and AI can't help me. AI can actually help you get very personalized where you may not have had time to do that before.
Mm. So this
Yeah,
is a
there are a
great
lot of
example you've given me about how you created music for, um, a food restaurant. But can you also share a case study where AI automation dramatically improved a client's operational efficiency?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, one example that comes to mind is a recent project I actually discussed on another podcast where I worked with a handyman who needed help managing his end-to-end operations. He
Mm.
had heard about me and my background as he came up to me and said, I wanted to hire someone, but nobody could even understand my current process. He has about 10 to 15 inbound leads per day coming through various channels, WhatsApp, email, website, phone calls, texting. And so he had multiple computers, laptops, tablets, all in his office. And so I went through and I did a process mapping activity to understand what his entire process was, how he arrived there
Mm.
so we talked from initial customer inquiries to job completion.
Mm.
That helped us identify his main pain points like missed calls, delayed follow-ups. And we were able to identify that he could automate 75% of his current process.
Wow.
Now, he didn't want to automate everything. I guess that's the second point here is it's
Mm.
always a conversation about how much you want to automate. One simple example is he could have automated all the replies to the Google reviews, but he didn't want to do that. He wanted to hear from the customer and know what they were actually saying. So this didn't
Mm.
make sense to him. And so we picked pieces to automate. And the first thing we did was have an AI receptionist answer the phone calls when he was
Mhm.
busy.
Mm.
And so the AI receptionist walks people through. They find the name, the city they're in, because that's important for assigning the job,
Mm.
the details about the job,
Mm.
and then tells them to please text or email a photo to his email. So by the time he sees the summary, and the summary of the call goes to his email with all the information. So by the time he opens up his email, sees it, and looks at the photo, he can generate an estimate much more quickly.
Mm.
So I think this simple example, even though it's we didn't automate the entire process, we didn't need to. We took away the biggest pain point. So that's
Mm.
one of the other things that I'm passionate about. We have to start somewhere, start small, but just
Absolutely.
see how that will
But
improve your
what
business.
what amazing examples you've given of how you have used AI to actually support businesses. But if you look at the converse side of it, Heidi walks in and does a lot of work and supports the business. But how can a business owner identify the area that they need your support in? And how do they really try and figure out what kind of an improvement they can expect?
So it starts with understanding they have a pain point.
Yeah.
If if I'm speaking with a business owner, like I did speak with a trolley car operator,
Mm.
and he said, "Hey, I heard you do AI stuff. How can you help me?" And I said,
Mm.
"Well, tell me about the biggest challenge you're facing." And
Mm.
he said, "No, no, I don't have any challenges. This is, pretty much self-sustaining, and I don't have any challenges." But other people were telling me that his trolley car was half empty.
Mm.
So, first of all, it has to start with some awareness of a problem.
Mm.
If they're open but they're not problem aware, I'm certainly happy to sit down with them and talk to them. So maybe they're just used to the status quo. Maybe he's used to this thing like, oh, what's probably the best I can get, being 25% full or
Yeah.
30% full.
Mm.
So anyway, I share that because the best thing is I'm not here to implement AI at all. I'm
Mm.
here to help businesses improve their processes, and oftentimes we can leverage AI in that. So for businesses, they should get started thinking about the biggest pain points and the biggest problems they're facing. What sucks their time from a day-to-day
Mm.
basis? Is it trying
Mm.
to create social media? Is it trying to follow up with leads? Is it whatever it is? Think about the biggest pain point. Then that gives us something to talk about.
Mm.
And you can always do, I often do a discovery session where we talk through these things. The next step, once we've identified a potential problem, is to go do a process mapping activity so we can really understand what are the opportunities there, like the handyman and like other businesses. What of that process do you want to automate, and what do you want to keep for yourself?
Mm.
And then I would say, talk to somebody about trying to improve your process or implementing some automation. And it's not always an AI automation.
Yeah.
Maybe you just need a simple human process improvement.
Mm. Amazing. And Heidi, what role does value stream mapping play in the process improvement solutions that you offer?
It's foundational for my thought process.
Mm-hmm.
And value streams are literally thinking about from the time the request comes in to the time some value is delivered, just like the handyman. It
Mm.
was the call comes in and the end is the job is completed.
Mm.
We want to optimize that particular duration of time. And so I always think about value stream mapping.
Mm.
It's usually not enough to take just one tiny piece and automate that. So
Yeah.
as one example, I did automate the AI receptionist answering the calls.
Mm.
Imagine if the biggest delay was all his people were busy and they couldn't get to the job for 4 weeks. We may not want to focus then on the AI receptionist because the biggest problem he might need is hiring someone else. So I always talk about the holistic approach here and what is the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge is people have already found someone else before he says, oh, my guy can get to you in 3 weeks. And then they call him back 2 days later saying, sorry, I already found someone else. Why would I focus on
Mm.
the AI receptionist
Mm.
there? I would focus on something else.
Mm. But another concern that has often been shared with me when people
Mhm.
talk of AI is that, either I'm going to lose a job or a lot of my people will be displaced. How do you handle this whole issue of job displacement concerns?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. It's a great question. One of the reasons I didn't want to work with large enterprises is because their focus was more on reducing headcount
Mm.
than helping people evolve
Yeah.
it with AI.
Mm.
So the businesses I work with, that's not in their radar because they're just struggling to do their day-to-day work and stay as a thriving business. So job displacement isn't their top concern.
Mm.
They're looking for ways that they can reclaim time to focus on higher value activities. So I would say that's number one. They can't
Mm.
afford to hire more staff. They would just be grateful for 3-4 hours back in their day.
Yeah.
Um, so that is also a reason why I was really focused on small to medium-sized
Mm.
businesses.
Mm.
But I always address those concerns up front.
Mm.
So I had a guy I spoke with who has a consulting firm, and he's getting appointments. He's like a sales consultant firm.
Mm.
And so I spoke with him about my AI sales automation. He's like, I was going to hire 6 or 7 folks in the Philippines
Mm.
to do this, but why do I even need people? Now, like you're telling me that you can automate so much of this process. Why do I even need people? And I said, no, you
Mm.
actually need people.
Mm.
People are needed to review the AI's output. It's here to make their job easier. And so you'll need someone to manage the workflows. You'll need someone to inspect the AI, make sure that the output, and of course, deal with customers who
Mm.
don't want to speak with AI. Maybe they don't want to be qualified with AI. So people's jobs will change I think, to be at a more high level, the more creative tasks. So now the salespeople can focus on closing the deals versus chasing people and sending 5 follow-up
Correct.
emails. Just as one
Correct.
example.
Correct.
That's why I love working with smaller businesses, right? They're not
Absolutely.
thinking about layoffs. They're just
Absolutely.
trying to make the most of their limited resources.
Yeah. And Heidi, are there any ethical considerations that you take into account when implementing AI solutions?
Yeah, I do address the what you had just shared about laying off staff and
Yeah.
job displacement. I do address that up front. I ensure that clients understand how AI works and what it's doing behind the scenes. It's also being upfront about the limitations of AI, the fact that it is non-deterministic. So I was just speaking with someone yesterday and about this way of the personalization. So sending 1,000 very highly personalized emails
Hmm.
means each one will be slightly different. So it's non-deterministic in that way. It's not the old email form. We say, "Dear blank, I
Hmm.
see you attended blank university. In
Hmm.
your role as blank," it's not this standard form. They have to understand that because not even though 90% of the responses might be excellent, there might be some that they go, "Oh, this was not the best one."
Yeah.
So I talk to them about that. I always make sure they're not uploading any private data into a public LLM.
Hmm.
AI does produce biased content. It can reinforce them. So I always share that with them. They should be aware of that and don't just accept the AI response if they're creating an image or something. Just be aware. And my goal is to empower employees, not replace them. And I guess lastly, there's a lot here that I share, but
Yeah.
um, accountability for what the AI is producing. So you can't just set it and forget it. You have to be there, understanding and fine tuning the responses to get what you want. It's not.
Hmm.
It is like an employee in that way, where you still have to oversee it a bit.
Amazing. Amazing. My next question is, how do you balance being both a business leader and a technical expert in the ever evolving AI space? And I'm not an expert, but every day someone sends me a new .ai program.
Yeah. I have to focus on the priorities for my business
Yeah.
and leverage the strengths of others because I can't keep abreast of all the things. Like you said, there's a
Hmm.
thousand new programs being launched every day. And a lot of them are duplicates of other things and they're just little angles or filling a very niche market. So I can't do it all myself. So I leverage other people that I hire to keep abreast of those things and fulfill client needs because I can't be an expert in every platform and tool.
Yeah.
My primary responsibility is to lead the business. But that
Hmm.
said, so I know when to step back and delegate tasks to others because that's not in my area. But I know enough, I'll say, to be dangerous and when to hand it over. So I have built a strong network of people
Hmm.
to help me. And I think the second part of that is the businesses that I deal with aren't trying to be on the cutting edge. They're just trying to implement. A lot of them don't even use ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So I'm at a level where I'm helping them with tried and true AI solutions. And I have my vision ahead yet, knowing what's coming
Yeah.
so that when they're ready, I can also be ready. And it's not going to be a very experimental procedure to implement that automation or this AI
Hmm.
agent.
Hmm.
So I see like I'm not trying to be on the cutting edge. That's just not my business. That's not my market. I'm trying to
Hmm.
be the tried and true. We've done this for a year now. I can help you here. It's a very solid, it's a solid offer. And then as AI evolves, they'll be ready as well.
Hmm. Amazing. Heidi, you have time for two more questions.
Yeah.
My next question is, how do you foresee AI automation changing the landscape for small and medium businesses over the next few years?
Predicting a few years is pretty
I
impossible
agree.
because of the rapid pace of AI. And I
Yes.
think, but I believe that the next year or two are going to be pivotal for
Mm,
small and medium-sized businesses. And those that fail to adopt AI, their risk falling behind because there
mm,
will be small businesses who are leveraging that and who have gotten ahead of the curve.
mm,
So it's not a luxury anymore. It's becoming a necessity. They're those businesses that don't integrate AI, they're going to be struggling to keep up with the latest rising customer expectations. If I get a response right away, I can call you 24/7, and all of a sudden I'm calling a business and I'm not getting an AI assistant or someone answering my call or someone
Yeah.
following up right away. I'm not going to come back to you. So in a few years, we could see many small businesses that don't embrace AI being sold, acquired, or just dying off because they couldn't scale or adapt quickly enough. So I'll say I'm not forcing anyone to adopt AI, but I do feel a sense of urgency when I speak
Correct.
with
Correct.
business owners.
Correct. That's
Yeah.
great advice. That's great advice. And my last question for you, what advice do you have for other business leaders looking to successfully implement AI automation in their companies?
Just to start somewhere. Focus on the pain points. Think, what am I struggling? What's dragging you down day to day? Don't overthink AI itself. Just think about those biggest challenges or even the things you wish you had more time for. If you wish you could hire someone, if you had the budget to hire someone, where would you want to hire? So I don't push AI. I solve business problems. And so I'll say, again, if someone is not clear on the pain points, we can sit down and chat about that. And I do interviews and I help them understand where their pain points. So after 25 years in process improvement, there are some people who are simply stuck thinking that's just the way things are. It doesn't have to be that way. So, but anyway, we can get clear on the pain points or challenges. Then I encourage them to reach out to a process improvement person or an AI automation expert to see if there's something that could be automated. And maybe AI isn't actually the answer. Yeah, but for those who I do have pain points and challenges in their businesses, AI can be transformative. It's about finding the right fit, not just forcing the tech into where it doesn't fit.
Amazing. And on that note, Heidi, I just want to say thank you so much for talking to me about your own journey. I think I learned many new things as we spoke about BrightLogic and all the work that you're doing. We covered a lot of ground today. You told me about BrightLogic's core services. You spoke about some of the key challenges small and medium businesses face. We spoke about some common misconceptions. You also spoke to me about how you address the whole challenge of or concern of job displacement right up front. Then we spoke about some of the ethical considerations. And you also talked to me about where you see AI going. And of course, I forgot to mention you gave us two really interesting stories of how you actually used AI for the benefit of your client. Thank you again for speaking to me, and all the very best to you.
Thank you so much. Had a great time.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.